will see. You will see.
Yo guys, Phantom Sage here, and today I have a little bit of a tutorial to show off some mixing techniques. This is just the way I do it. I'm not a mixing professional whatsoever, but I've noticed that a lot of people who are professionals in the industry do this, maybe not exactly this way, but I'm going to be showing the way that I do it specifically. So hopefully you can take something away from this if you don't already know how to do this, and if you do know how to do this, maybe you can use some of these techniques to maybe improve or adapt what you're doing. So let's get started. I have made a little drum project, and it's just some 130 BPM house thing. I don't know. All of these drums are already tuned, so here's what they sound like right now. So, as you can tell, they're very crisp, they're very clean, and even with other instruments over them, they would sound really punchy and come through the mix. So the biggest advantage to tuning your drums is to have them tonally match the rest of your song. And that's important because the drums will be a lot more present without having to boost them as much, which will make your mix, in the end, a lot more clean. And I used to boost my drums like 5 dB above what above the baseline of all the other instruments, and this is a good alternative to that. It's still a good thing to have your drums boosted a little bit above the other things, but in the end, it makes a huge difference for a final result in a song is having your drums tuned well. And by tuned well, I mean tuned to key. This one is specifically tuned to an F sharp. So if you hear this sub, that is an F sharp. And my kick drum is actually layered in 2 different parts. So there's a high-end kick, which sounds like this. And there's a low-end kick, which sounds like this. Together, they sound like this. And in the mix, it obviously sounds a lot better. But having those 2 things compressed together, it makes a really full sound, and they're both in tune to each other. They're both in F sharp right now. This track is in F sharp, and I'm going to show you how to tune your kick drum and a snare to F sharp. A lot of dubstep drums are already in F sharp, but this is just something to make sure of, and if you're unsure, you should always check. For low-end frequencies, it's really hard sometimes to tell what key it is in. So maybe this will help to make that a little bit easier. So let's just pick a random kick drum here. All right, nice little low-end kick there. So what I normally do is I'll take a simple bass of some kind, maybe a sine wave or a square wave, and I'll just play it at an octave that you can hear easily. So this is just the sub bass pitched up by 3 octaves, I think, and play it next to the kick. It's in a different key. So, first thing you do is warp it. Pitch it up 2 octaves. From this, sometimes alone, you can tell. So, 2 semitones down, and that's the key. Then you can unwarp and do any adjustments you need to. There you go. Let's do this with another kick, just to show one more time. Pitch it up 2 octaves, warp it. Okay, so this is an example of when it gets kind of difficult to tell the note, because this is such a short kick. So what I like to do is extend it, like so. And there you go. See, 3 semitones down makes that kick an F sharp. Then unwarp, and this is now a usable kick. That is actually a really nice sounding kick. I think that's enough on the kicks. And it's basically the same thing for a snare, but the snares are a little bit easier to hear because they're a higher tone, but they're just as important to tune. So let's do that with one of the snares. This one you can already hear. That one's kind of easy to tell because it has an obvious note and it's kind of a high snare. But if you want to do it the same way, pretend I didn't do that. Just warp it, pitch it up 2 octaves. If you can't tell then, if you still can't tell what it is, drag it out. And then pitch it down or up to the key you have it. And then unwarp. And that's it. It's easy as that. The cool thing about snares specifically, not so much kicks, is snares can be any harmonic of the key that you're playing. So they can be the ones that I've noticed sound the best, and this isn't necessarily true for all songs because, you know, a certain song could be different tonally. But the keys that I've noticed sound the best are the root note, which is the key that your song is in. The third, 4 semitones, that's a major. A third would be your minor. So it can be the root note, the third, the fourth. It can be the fifth too, or the seventh. The ones that I've noticed that sound the best are the root note, the fourth, and the seventh, or the fifth and the seventh. With the kicks, you typically want to have it on the root note, unless if it's a really short, snappy kick. Otherwise, you will have weird issues with it sounding like it's in a different key than your sub. So just something to consider. So, for example, this loop is in F sharp. And the snare is in the root note right now, but we could always go down 5 semitones. And now it's in the 7th, which also sounds good, as you can tell. It's kind of low though, so if we go up an octave, or just do it to taste. I think it sounds good low. But for this snare, I would recommend leaving it in the octave that it's in. So that's how you tune your drums, and obviously you want to do this with your toms as well. Any percussions. So if you have like congas or something going on in the background, you want to make sure those are in tune. Bells, obviously, always tune those. Basically anything that has a tone, you want to tune. And I feel like doing this by ear like this with warping and taking advantage of transposition is a lot more accurate than using a key detection plugin. So I hope you guys learned something from this tutorial. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you later.